Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another experience of DaAfrican Speaks. And you know that our 2026 theme for the entire year is the coming of the Mbutu generation. The coming of the Mbutu generation. We're working with this in multiple levels. And if you look at it, when I say the coming of the Mbutu generation, if you see how multi-generational the images on the advertisement pieces, meaning that it is generation not necessarily in age but in time. It is definitely time for our community, the African diaspora, because we have technology set up in ways that connect us in all areas of the world. Our time, our generational timing is perfect for us to connect, come together as a people. And so in this process, we're teaching ourselves. And it's not learning something new, it is remembering what is already there. The children know, we said, hey, what is Ubuntu? And a lot of people say it is the definition of I am because we are. However, it goes deeper than that. It is the process of remembering what is already built inside you. Ubuntu is knowing what is in your bones. It's not a faith, it's not a belief, it's a knowing. It's something more profound, more built into who we are. A process of remembering. And imagine, what would it look like? What would the world be like? What would the diaspora feel like if we all took time to remember? Functioning from a knowing, a faith beyond faith. And so I know I have some people who have not seen this, and I invited them to watch it. As we continue, we're going to create something called the collective. In that collective, the collective is going to be a scenario where you can actually log in and come on the show. And we can have an open discussion about who, what, when, where, why, and how. What information is there for you? One love, good language, good English. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. And everybody that's there watching online, peace and blessings. Definitely peace and blessings. And so the first time we introduced this concept, we wanted to talk about how Ubuntu was divine, right? We want to discuss Ubuntu being divine. And in that process of discussing Ubuntu being divine, we said this happened way before language, culture, way before the human experience. When you understand I am because we are. And when you look at how the Most High created the universe in harmony and peace at one with itself, before it said, let us create man in our image, one male and one female. Not man as a single being, man as a species, one male, one female. And we're going to say, that's who they represent. But do you see the family behind them? We are the first family of the planet. But to understand Ubuntu in nature, you cannot have fish existing outside of water. You cannot have a plant grow without the sun, without fertile soil. Bees move pollen around so that things can grow. Everything is a balance. Everything is in harmony. Without man, the earth exists in pure harmony. Ubuntu, I am because we are. That gorilla is a gorilla because there's a jungle and some bananas for him to swing on. Without the trees, what is a gorilla going to do? He can't swing on anything. What is he going to eat? Again, nature connects in harmony. And so we bring the people of the planet, when they came in, that Afro consciousness was understanding that relationship to the harmony, their connection, the metaphysical relationship to everything around them. Ubuntu is divine. That is Afro consciousness, that there was a oneness of all things and everything. And so in that space, we went from introducing Ubuntu to talking about Ubuntu is divine to where we are here. And we talked about, well, where are we now? And so we discussed the black reality of the diaspora. What is the reality of the diaspora or within it? Inside yourself, your consciousness. We had a consciousness where we knew that we were all connected. We were one family, one people, one movement. Many different cultures and languages, but it was what? It was the way we expressed our understanding of our relationship to the universe. That was everything and everybody. But now it has been interrupted through colonialism and slavery. And so in us is a war, a warfare going on, a mental, spiritual, emotional warfare, where the African in you, the African mindset that believes in communalism, believes in family, believes in connectedness, is battling up against that colonialized mind that believes in selfishness, self-centeredness. There was every man for themselves, where you're judging yourself according to someone else's definition of who you are. And anytime we're going through states where we're tired, we're exhausted, we're wearing down, it's because inside there's a warfare that never ends. One may win over one day, and the other one may win over the other day. But this is that war that is going on inside of you. It hadn't completely hushed your African mindset that knew that you was a manifestation of divine thought, that you are connected to all things around you, that you are a vessel for a spirit to work through, and that everything you see is a manifestation of the Most High. To that, I'm a colonialized mindset where I am a manifestation of the governmental structures that want to control me. And I function from those structures, or those things that those governmental structures put in me. Right? And so we went from there to started teaching. Last week we did a 2-in-1 because we had fell behind because of the weather and I got sick. And we got to a point where this was 2-in-1, and we're going to go back and talk about these individually, but I wanted to play catch up, where we're talking about the kingdom within, identity as a spiritual technology. We got 2-in-1 last week. And said, when you're dealing with the kingdom within, you're dealing with self-sovereignty or divine sovereignty, where you're being governed by that inner power, that inner strength, the kingdom of the Most High within inside yourself. That's when you are self-sovereign versus externally governed. And when we're dealing with the kingdom within, we said you have to go beyond your conscious thinking to get to the kingdom within. You got to go down through your pre-consciousness, which is the memories further back. Then you got to go to the subconscious, right? So in the subconsciousness, you don't know what's sitting in there. It's old traumas. Why don't you like the color green? Why don't you eat this, or why don't you eat that, or what hurts your feelings, or that's that subconscious. What was in there? And we said we got to do a lot of work, but what we added was, every time I stared at this particular image, when they said, and this is talking about how much of our mind we use or we don't use. We use 10% of our brains. I didn't see that. I saw housing consciousness. My brain is the space where the consciousness comes in. Now, if I'm only using 10% of my brain, I said, well, let's go inside and see what's there. And as I would go in my own meditation, you get to a place where you're really out of your mind. Your meditation takes you into those living waters of divine consciousness. Your mind dissolves into a living water of creative intelligence, cosmic energy and creative intelligence. you get to that point where you are experiencing an energy that is limitless, vast, within inside yourself. And if that happens inside you, because we said that the biggest lie you were ever told, that heaven was outside of your own human experience. And a lot of us truly are holding on to that because you can see how much we don't produce as beings of the Most High. And so we know that everything about your identity is based off of your awareness. We stated that your spiritual technology is based off of your spiritual awareness. And your spiritual awareness gives you your identity. It gives you who you are and teaches you how to function. And when we left off with this, we added that it's like code. It's like the coding. And I said, we're going to call it your F12 code source. Now, if you hit F12, if you're watching the internet and you hit F12 on your keyboard, the page will split, and on the right of that keyboard or the right of that screen, you're going to see the source code that makes everything manifest on the left. So even if you're watching this and you hit F12, you'll see the screen split. On the left-hand side will be the live stream. On the right-hand side will be the soft code hitting behind it that gives this live stream the identity of what you see. That's just like who we are as beings. There is a source code, which is our awareness of who we are, that gives us our identity. And so from that understanding, we moved to the point where we're saying, hey, today's lesson, language as programming. Language as programming. Words as a neurological architecture. You're like, what? This brother's about to get super deep. And this was on me. And so, yes, we have to ask ourselves, when you say language is programming, you ask yourself, well, what is language? What is language considered? How is language used? How does that help me improve my life and the life of the members that I'm connected to? How does language allow me to see the world better? How does language allow me to see myself? Language is literally the blueprint. It is the blueprint that the mind uses to create structure. It gives its understanding of what the world around us. Language gives us the understanding of the world around us, which means moving towards Ubuntu, understanding that I am because we are, is remembering. The process of remembering, but we have to engage that inner engineering. This is how we begin to not be governed by external extremities, but in inner engineering on who we are. And that's deeply, deeply, deeply important, because colonialism was not only about taking over the land. It was about taking over the language. It was about stealing the discussion that you have within inside yourself, and we're going to get into that. A lot of us have heard the scripture, life and death are in the power of the tongue. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. Now, when we sit down and I was looking at that, I'm always talking about Hacks telling the kids in the Keebaland to speak life coming out, let it being heard. But it's more than just speaking out, is what you're talking or saying to yourself. Because in that space, words create categories. Language, this is the inner engineering. Your categories shape your perception. And I'm always talking to people about, I think you perceive this wrong according to the categories that are in your mind, how you see these things. Your perception about things guides your behavior. Your behavior reinforces what? The identity. And so in that space where this scripture was talking about what you say out your mouth is more focused on what you say to yourself when your mouth is not moving. What? This is more about what you say to yourself. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. It's what you say to yourself when your mouth is not moving. These are all about your inner thoughts. Now, in the process of colonialism, slavery, you can go in and think you can take the resources of the land. That's one thing. But to own land that you don't live on and to make somebody surrender to you, you had to change the thinking of the people on the land. In colonialism, when they got the first series of slaves, they were not worried about the first generation. Colonialism said, look, we got them, but that doesn't make them a slave. Nah, we got to change how they think. This is why they changed your name, because our names have vibrations. The names had meaning. They had destiny. They had heritage. They had history. The names meant something. She said, Najuma, language is more than just communication. It's creation in motion. When you speak, pray, think, we program our responses, beliefs, and how we perceive our reality. One love, Najuma. Again, we coming with the collective where y'all can come in and click, and I can bring you in onto the screen, and they can see you, and you can get to say it for yourself. The collective is coming. But language was so much more than just communication. It is the art of creation, but it's not necessarily only what you say, it's what you think. Now name the computer that never shuts down, that is always running. It is your mind. So even when you're sleeping, if the language in you is the language of your oppression, if it's the language of colonialism, if it's the language that is the mark of slavery, you wake up and you still are the same being that you was before if the language didn't change. When you start thinking about yourself and your own survival more than the survival of your people, the survival of your family, your people, your kin, anybody that looks like you is different. They wanted the mindset of the generations, maybe after 3 or 4 generations. And Willie Lynch said that. Said, look, if we can keep them here and we strip them from everything and give them nothing but the colonialist way, which is the illness of separation. We want to separate you from anything that makes you connected. We got to kill your culture, your heritage, your history. We got to separate you from your land or the land, because now we're all over the globe. We got to give you the ignorance of self. And that was clear. They knew that, look, people say, oh, ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is brutal. The brutality of ignorance is such that it will make you dead while you're alive. It will make you dead while you're alive. And a lot of people, man, please. Just because you got a great job, just because you got your own place, just because you got you a car, just because you can get dressed, does not mean that you're not the walking dead. Because what is life to someone who just came out of colonialism? Is it to have the person that colonized you to have a better life in their world? Or is it tapping into the divine person that you are and us becoming the people that we called to create a world from that awareness. Not my awareness allows me to get a better life in this state of colonialism. It is to build something that mimics the awareness of a people when you start accessing that African mindset. Now, they said the worst prison of them all is the sentence that you repeat to yourself. The worst prison to exist in is the sentence that you repeat to yourself, even when you sleep. If you don't think you nothing and you got to walk out and you walking around with your chest out saying I'm something, but you go to sleep and your mind reverts back to the conditioning, the programming, you wake up believing. And I remember hearing a friend of mine in the bathroom screaming at himself in the mirror to make him believe in his own greatness. I was like, wow, he's having some troubles. But he was fighting himself. Now, in that space where they say the most powerful prison is the sentence, and they didn't understand what they said, the sentence. And when they put us in prison, they give us a what? A sentence. When I give you this sentence, the sentence is you are a prisoner for how long? I'm giving you this sentence. That you will be incarcerated and locked up and a prisoner not allowed to manifest your grand self for 25 to life. You have a sentence. And now you have to live out the identity that I declare on you. And you hope that in there you get rehabilitation. But they don't put anything in there for rehabilitation for real. But it's a sentence. And imagine, you free. What sentence are you saying to yourself when your mouth is not moving? What are the words are you repeating? What fears do you fall against? What anxieties do you have? What doubts manifest when you are not speaking? When you can't hear your voice, but you hear your thoughts. So this language that it says, the language, life and death are the power of the tongue. That language is the language of your thoughts. It's the power of your thinking, internal. What are you saying to yourself? Because if you can give yourself your colonialistic thinking, you definitely deliver it to other people when it's time for you to actually be verbal. And that is something that we have to look at. Okay, see, I see you, Najuma. Look how language works. It's powerful. You ain't got to say nothing to speak. I tell the kids, I said, real talk. So I said, hey, you ever seen somebody walk in a room and own the room before they speak? Yeah, watch this. And we did it this past week. And I said, did I do it? They were like, yeah, you walked in there. It's what you're saying to yourself. Every time I take on a community project, I challenge the being within me. How much can I go through to see the greatness that is coming within me? It took me years to change this thinking inside myself. And so you have to understand that in that concept of where you're not talking, but your programming is continuing, it is the concept of you having African hardware being controlled by European software. We are African hardware being controlled by European software. Now think about it. What would a heterosexual white male in America think about himself? Right. He had to condition himself to think that way. Why? Because he came up against a society of people who understood we were the higher developing beings. But when you talk about it today, what does the white male think about himself? He controls the government structure. He gives you your identity. He gives it to you. And he shows you what he thinks of you all the time. And then you show, according to how you carry yourself, how you accepted his declaration. This is what we term it. The declaration of black inferiority is how we call it in my church. We were declared inferior. Now the illness comes in when we accepted it. Now they take off the confines of physical colonization, physical slavery. They take it off, so we don't have to do it no more. Why? Because they are poisoned with the brutality of ignorance. Poisoned with it. We are walking beings that are functioning from European thinking in an African hardware. You are the best biological machine ever created. And the only way they can control it is to control the software. And so you've been given software. And they say that in that space, once they set you free physically, they said, oh, we ain't got to worry about it because they're not going to rise up. Only to a certain extent. Because they're not going to do much. But in that space, now you understand what real identity theft is. And it don't matter if you was raised in an all black school, all white school. It doesn't matter because you are governed in a country that tells you since your entry to the country. And then what's happening in the motherland. Colonialism, this is why we can't get it together. And why Ibrahim Traore in Burkina Faso is being spoken across this land, because I don't care how many other countries in the continent of Africa have black leadership. They're still being governed by colonialism, European software in an African hardware. It's like you can't take an Android phone and put the Android operating system inside a Apple phone and it worked. It just won't do it. However, it does that with the humans. Now, if I tell you, and we've done this last week, if there is a software inside a computer that does not allow that computer to function at its proper state, what is that software? A virus that is tapping and sapping into your identity. That's identity theft. Last week we said the biggest lie was teaching you that the kingdom of God is outside yourself. Identity theft. And everything about what you experience here is about stealing your identity. Now, we're going to talk about how those words affect your body. It is stated that by the age of 12, the majority, the age of 12, that particular being has been controlled and been moved to a state where they're functioning from their beta frequency mindset, survival mode. And as long as you can keep a body on survival mode, they will never manifest to their higher self. Now, when you sit down and say, okay, get deep into that, Ajay. If you're always worried about your rent, stress, your body constricts. That tension goes through your whole being. This is why we have pre-existing conditions. It's right here. And it don't matter White man can sit down and say, man, if I take a shower, I go get educated, and I put on different clothes, I can change who I am. But as a black man, when they decided to bring black people over to America and make us slaves, they said, easy, because we're always going to know that they're here. You can't escape. And so your whole life is functioning out of survival mode. This is why some of us have nerve issues, and that some people are nervous and anxiety. That's what your body is constricted to the point it can't relax, it can't rest, it can't breathe. Why? Because you're always existing in survival mode. And they said it starts at the age of 12. By 12, the nervous system of the body knows I'm trying to survive every day. And I tell people, you give me your kid early enough, I'm trying to tell you, I'm fighting for them. By the time they 12, if I hadn't got them, we're going to have to teach them to fight for themselves, because that's where it starts. Now, I got some kids this year last year, right? They were like 11. And I dropped my head. I said, man, we're going to have to put some work in. Because they need to understand, just like you, that you live in survival mode. And it doesn't matter how much information you have in your consciousness. Doesn't matter. If you still got food, I'm fighting for food. Clothes, you see, even though, no matter what I'm wearing, I'm still struggling. I got to buy it. I got to get the money up. Shelter, rent, heat, electricity, water bill, trash bill. What? Your body is always like this. So you never get an opportunity to know how powerful you are, how great you can be. You never understand that free-flowing energy. And you're always looking for somebody to help you survive. That's when you realize that sometimes the relationships aren't real. Because all they care about is what? I need somebody to help me to survive. My nervous system is so constricted that I don't get to be the God within myself. I can't reach. I can't slow down and meditate and reach the kingdom of God inside me. Because the language that I have around me has governed my mind to the point where my identity was hijacked. And it's a struggle. It's a fight. It's an everyday journey. And again, if they say by the age of 12, if your kids had not found out ways to if the language about who they are, whose they are, why they're here, is not embedded in them by 12, they switch to survival mode and colonialism got them. 12. That doesn't mean that they didn't have a good education. That doesn't mean they didn't have good clothes. That doesn't mean they had good food. They have not been a part of a deconditioning process where they are reprogrammed. And I say reprogram because by the age of 5, get a little girl and ask a little girl, do the doll test on the next 5-year-old that you see. White doll, black doll. Which one is she going to choose? Sad situation. Because when you got a kid choosing a black child choosing the white doll at 5, whoa. So then which are you going to choose? You have a lot of black people who don't even want to talk about being African. They don't even want to discuss African culture, African food, African music. They fight it all the way. Then you got people who only put their pinky toe and step out. Wow, well, my family think I'm tripping. Your family, we all are functioning from a constricted nervous system, brain and nervous system, which goes all over our body. It is the wiring. And if we don't deal with the issue of our wiring, we won't get there. We're always in that fight or flight mindset. When a gazelle is getting chased by a lion, you ever seen that beast run? Running for their whole life. Black people do that the minute they come out the womb. By the age of 12, you in the full stride and you never get a chance to slow down. That's why we have pre-existing conditions. That's why we never function from our fullest state of being, because we're always that gazelle running from the beast trying to eat us. Can you imagine what a black man has to go through that said, man, y'all know it, a black person, period. When those lights hit you behind you, Them police light hit you. Ooh, you already driving restricted. Why? Because you in America. You trying to listen to the music you want to listen. You try to calm down. But minute them lights hit you, ooh, it ain't even got to hit you. All you got to do is drive past the car. Ooh, real talk. I be there. I be there. I got tired of getting locked up. Off of nothing. You know, oh, hey, this is this and this is that, man. Please. You hate it. And in that space where you live from a space of constricted nervous system, you don't get to who you are. How do you change the inner talk? This is why when they say mental illness is increasing in our community. Why? Because it don't matter. We're in a more relaxed state of slavery, but we see it more. We feel it differently here. Back when we were slaves, you catch a whip, you catch a beating. Yeah, well, you thinking you really, if I work hard, I can get ahead. You, as an individual, might. But everybody else around you not. Why? Because they don't open doors for a people. They open doors for a person. So how do we change that inner talk as a people, as a diaspora, as a generation who has the access to technology where you can study something different, something more profound, you can interact so much greater. Why? Because they gave us access to technology. This is why they're trying to take technology. Because some of us are actually using technology more than just entertainment. Some of us said, you know what, there is nothing on the internet that I see that stirs the God within me, so I have to become it. Hence, DaAfrican Speaks. Now I want to create an experience called the collective where we all get a chance to voice our thoughts on the topic. To show ourselves that we are coming together. To give an example and some energy to release a frequency to the world that says, wow, this is something that we need to be a part of. And so how do you defeat that? Ubuntu. It's that simple. The philosophy of harmony, the philosophy of connectedness, the philosophy of being one body, one group with different variations. You have, if you see something that says a grape is a grape is a grape, but there are variations of a grape. You have an apple, it's still an apple, but there are variations of an apple. Right? Same with us as beings. You got ants. How many type of ants are there? Ubuntu says that this is a oneness. We are direct expressions of the Most High, and we are all connected to the Most High, that being, that cosmic energy and creative intelligence. We are all connected, but we're different expressions of it. If you can't see yourself as an expression of the Most High, how do you see that in the next person? But Ubuntu is that answer. Having you remember who you are and why you're here. That is the process of being reprogrammed. Reprogrammed to access that kingdom within, that divine sovereignty, where you're governed from the spiritual connection to the cosmos from the inside. Then when that happens, you shift your language. And your language becomes a whole lot different. A whole lot different. You are able to walk in relaxed states. And then your creativity increases, your sleep increases, your health increases, everything increases. Your vibration when people walk in the atmosphere, when you walk in the room, the energy from that nervous system accessing infinite power is permeated 30 feet outside from you. You change the room. Why? Because you are going through the process of reprogramming. And so in this space where we're going to start this, because you can't do this, it's not something that you do overnight. This is a process. We're not going to immediately reprogram. before you even get to the point where you become reprogrammed. I had a conflict with a friend of mine where she didn't get it. Are you the observer or the observed? Are you the sum of your emotions, the sum of your feelings, the sum of your pain, the sum of your sorrow? Are you the expression of your slavery? Are you expression of your hurt? Are you the being inside yourself observing you? When you close your eyes and you look and say, who's that looking? Because the deeper you go inside yourself, you realize there's no person there's no hurt, there's no trauma in there. There's no pain in there. When you get past the epigenetic, when you start doing work, and we're going to get into that too. If y'all look at DaAfrican Speaks, The Power of the Divine Self, look through those chapters. Because those chapters will open you up into some things. So y'all go ahead and take a look. But you got to be the observer. Ask yourself, why am I feeling anger? Why did this trigger this? Why am I emotionally moved by the trigger? What can I learn from that experience? You have to begin to bear witness to your own thoughts. You have to take time to see what language are you using when certain things happen to you. What understanding do you have when you witness certain things? You have to be the observer of your own emotions. And I have a friend and I'm always telling him, hey, wait, ask yourself, is that really truth? Or is that your conditioning? Is that your slave self? Is that your bad programming? Is that the European software in your African hardware? Slow down. Look at it. Because in Ubuntu, you don't get that lonely feeling. In Ubuntu, you don't feel fear. In Ubuntu, you don't feel doubt. It's a different experience. You have to first become the observer. Take a look at your feelings and ask yourself, why am I feeling this? Okay. How does that make me? Okay. Now, am I anger? I am not anger when I define myself spiritually. Anger is an emotion. It's not the power of the being. I'm created in the image of God. I'm the male version of that creation. I'm not anger. Am I fear? Nah. And so you got to go to that point where your language becomes your identity. And you take the time to change it. I tell people we have esports. And we try to teach the kids identity in esports. Right? All right. Did he beat you? Or did you beat yourself? So when you playing, interacting with anybody, you did you lose or did you learn a lesson? How are you perceiving that? Did you observe that experience differently? Are you, when you say, I'm not enough? Are you not enough or are you just not evenly yoked? That's a difference. That don't mean you're not enough. That means that person may not be him or her. What is the language you use? I'm lonely? Are you ever? Because how can you say lonely in understanding in Ubuntu when you know that you're always connected? The kingdom of God is within you. To say you're lonely is to say that I'm mentally disconnected from the creator within. So you're never truly by yourself. I say, are you bored? Or you haven't tapped into your creativity. I need to tap into my creativity to find something to do at this time. Become the observer. Bear witness to your thinking. And change what you must. But you don't have to necessarily change it now. I need you to bear witness to it. Some individuals are never bearing witness to how they feel, think, or respond. Slow down. And then at the end, that doesn't mean, you should have fixed it. I remember when I first started doing it and I did something that I wasn't supposed to do. I got overheated, got upset with a cab driver. Hey, Benny, you remember the story? And he went home and said, "Mommy, mommy, I saw," and then he said my slave name, and her eyes got big versus saying my African name. And she looked at me and she said, "What happened?" And so I told her it was a cab driver being deeply, deeply racist when I'm with my kid brother, and I had no reason why. It was no reason why this kid. He stopped on the highway exit. Let me tell the story. Indian dude stopped on the highway exit, told him I'm on the way home. I need you to so and so and so. He stopped on the exit to get on the highway and turned around and said, "I want my money now." Excuse me? Give me my money now. Wait, 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 wait. We're on the exit to the highway, brother. You about to drive on to the exit. How are you stopping before you get on the exit of the highway? No, 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 no. I'm not going nowhere until you give me my money. And I pulled out a knot. Said, "Brother, I have no issue with finances. I need you to not treat me like this in front of my little brother. I do not want him to experience this. So please, drive." "No, you're going to give me my money now." And up until this time, all I said was, "Good evening, thank you for coming. This is where we would like to go." And I don't know, whatever it was, I lost it. I lost it. And back then, we didn't have any, it wasn't Uber. So it was that plastic glass. I almost went through that plastic glass. Yeah. And then I got out and I got home and I was upset. And I sort of the look in my brother's eyes and I had to pause. And I had to be the observer to my own action. Why did you let that trigger you? Why did that bother you? Because I got out the car. We walked back up the hill into the hotel, got on the phone, called a cab, got another cab, went home. And I needed to check my energy. Be the observer. Bear witness to yourself. And then slowly learn your triggers. Slowly take the time. And then anytime you pass or fail, ask the universe, can I have another chance to pass that test? My response was what it shouldn't have been. I responded from my conditioning. Allow me another test so that I can respond from my new state of awareness. This is definitely an inner voice revolution. We can't build community. We can't build families. We can't build communities. We can't build neighborhoods. We can't build cities. We can't even build a nation if that inner voice revolution hasn't gone on and we don't see ourselves as kings, queens, or empire makers. We have to get to that point where the inner voice revolution is the forefront of who we are and what we do. We're moving from that survival mindset to that sovereign mindset. Survival mindset where we're governed by all of external. Our behaviors are based off of all of external issues. But when you have a sovereignty unto God, it's like Marcus Garvey would talk about sovereignty under God. That means everything is internal. And you can find your greatness not outside, but from within. And from that greatness, you produce everything you need. And so everything that you are reflects upon that awareness of your inner divinity. Ubuntu is about understanding and being woken back up or remembering your inner divinity. Now imagine raising our kids in that state. And I'm forever always for the next year coming back to World of Akiba Land. I see y'all on Sundays. Here in Atlanta, we are going to create the experience as well. I told them, y'all get ready. We're changing the dynamics of how we do Sunday service, where kids can log in, not just view it. It's one thing to view it from home. It's another thing to be able to log in and actually talk to kids around the world. We're building that as well as the Pan-African Kids Council. I'm about to start advertising that. We launched that this weekend. Kids from all over the country having one understanding that I am because We are. And understanding that Ubuntu is divine. And we're going to make sure that the age in which we get them, that we keep control of that narrative that they have in their head for themselves. So by the time, if they from 12 to 18, when you unleash your children to the world, they are the definition of an identity of what it means to be a spiritual being. And they are building a world around them, not maintaining and sustaining the world in which the European world in which they live, but we need a Burkina Faso spirit here in America, where we have more resources in terms of finances. Everybody's running to the continent. Ain't nobody building the continent. It's different. I want to get out somewhere where I'm feeling good to be black. Yeah, but are you going to build society that reflects a sovereign spirit? And that's what we seek to do here. And so I always ask you, join the mission. We here in Atlanta at the PAOCC, Pan-African Orthodox Christian Church. Join the mission. Join the conversation. Bring a child. You are a part of the generation, because it's not just for the kids. And I've asked some people, watch with your children today. And then have the conversation, because the kids at the Kibble are having these discussions. And so see what we have been talking about and see how much it is in them. Because if they only come out on Sunday and we're talking to them about it on Sunday, but it's not being talked about at home. And we said that kids are taught by observing. So if you haven't policed your own language, your kid is a manifestation of the conversation that you have with yourself. Wow. Your kid is a manifestation of the language you have with yourself. They're observing your behaviors, and your behaviors is a manifestation of how you think. So if you are embodying sovereign thinking, God is within. I tap into my higher self and I function as much as possible from that divine self. They will see it, understand it, and there will be nothing we can do to stop them from expressing that. That's what that means. When I'm always back in the day when I would say, that's the rise of the African. It's more than just us coming together, but it's who we are when we come together. Because, black folk can come together and party. But my thing is, let us come and create something, build something behind a new awareness. With that being said, I hope you got something from this. If you did, let me know. Put your comments, everything that you can, and we'll talk about it. All right? This is still developing. Y'all get ready for the collective, because it's coming. And I would love to hear your voices. I believe that as I begin to speak, it triggers your memory. And then you have something to add to the pool of information to everybody else that watches. I am a part of one of the most powerful thinking communities. And I will be inviting all of them to come. Let us show, I can't wait to show the mindset of the people who helped guide me to becoming Aj, the African. Yeah, one love. Before we go, one, I thank you for being here tonight. I would also like to say I woke up this morning at 7:30 and found out about the transition of Jesse Jackson. And this is nothing but a sign of the time, the changing of an era. When you see those who have fought for us to be able to live a better life of servitude. Grateful for all the work, grateful for all the service, grateful for everything that they represented and that he did in the name of his own people. Thankful. And so normally back in the day when things used to happen, I used to sit down and I used to get upset and I used to cry. When strong people were gone, I don't know why. But it used to hurt my heart and my soul. Now, I'm grateful for the time that they were given, the time that we got. And I always say to myself, what am I going to personally going to do to say I got it from here? I grabbed the torch. You can put your torch out and go work, rest in power. Not in peace, in power. Because we got more work to do. So we got another soldier that crossed over that you can call on and say, hey, help me with the liberation of our people.